Welcome to another Holistic Home Journey expert interview. I'm your host, Crystal Canada, and I help parents break generational cycles of the traditional yell, shame, hit, punish type parenting by offering mindset shifts, judgment-free support, and tangible tools so that you can parent in a more developmentally appropriate and holistic way. Today, I'm speaking with Jackie, and Jackie, you might know better as @kindminds_smart hearts. She's on TikTok, and I love watching her videos. So Jackie is a wife, a stay-at-home mom. She lives in Texas, and she is a former teacher. She's got a master's degree in school counseling. She has found her passion in helping kids who had been labeled as behavior problems by their teachers. And she's applied a lot of her training to her current, which she calls gentle-ish parenting style. She believes that most behavior is communication, and then finding out the reasons for certain behaviors can help us address them. Please don't mind Emma screaming in the background. And hello, Jackie.
Hi. Hi, thanks so much for inviting me. It feels so weird to be called an expert, but I appreciate you inviting me. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And if my son comes by screaming, it's not indicative of everything that I know. It's okay. Kids are allowed to scream. That's just how.
Well, no, we're gonna look to see if you scream back, right?
I can assure you I will not scream back. I will more than likely just squish him in the corner with some fruit snacks, which is not recommended behavior in a general setting. But, on an interview situation, extraneous circumstances, extenuating circumstances, it has to happen sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. Mine are both on iPads right now, too. All right, so let's jump right in. So you have a 3-year-old at home. And a lot of the parents in our community are struggling with meltdowns at that age, like not just I'm throwing a tantrum because I want something, but like full out, you can't even get to them, meltdowns. How are you handling that with your 3-year-old?
I'm really glad that you made that distinction. I was going to do that if you didn't. So just for anybody who doesn't know tantrum, you can reason with them. You know what I mean? It's like they're holding out. Just like you said, they know what they want and they just want you to give it to them. A meltdown is when you can't reach them. It's like they're in another planet. You know what I mean? So yeah, we get those at our house, definitely. And for my son, what helps me is I say to him, do you want to talk or do you want space? And he will say, I want space. If he's not able to say I want space, I just assume he wants space. But space in our case means, and I have a little acronym, I'll share it with you if you'd like. But S for sit nearby. I want him to know that I'm still here and available for him. I'm not going to be like, do you want space? All right, peace. I'm going to go in the kitchen. You stay in your room and we'll meet up in 20 minutes. Like I need him to know I'm still here. The P is put out your hand, either metaphorically or physically. Like let him know, hey, I'm here for you whenever you're ready to talk to me, but I'll give you a moment to get all that wow, because a lot of times you just need to get it out, so they can calm down, kind of wear themselves out. And that's what the A stands for. Accept any emotional displays they may be putting on. Don't try to say, oh, it's okay. You don't need to cry. You're fine. Like if they're crying, they're crying. Let them cry. That feels good. I don't know if you're like me, but when I was a kid, I used to cry and then go to the mirror and watch myself cry and make myself cry more, like be super dramatic, be like, it helped me get through it.
My 5-year-old does that. And I never thought of that as like a way of getting through it. I'm like, why does she like to watch herself cry? That's interesting.
It's just like, I don't know. It just gives you that extra oomph. I don't know what it is, but that's how I used to do it. And if my son's the same way, he's pretty like overly dramatic about it. But C is calm yourself down. So that's good so that you can talk to them in a minute when they have calmed down. But also it's good because they can watch you. If you can like overly do it, like because you're modeling that behavior, like say what you're doing. I feel very stressed right now. Max is having a meltdown. I'm going to put my hands on something cool and take some deep breaths to help myself calm down. So, narrating, that's the word I was looking for. Narrating what you're doing is helpful. And then E stands for expect that it will take longer than you want it to. Don't try to rush it. It sucks. Nobody is having fun, but you just kind of have to let it happen. And I think that's something that a lot of parents struggle with is like, we're on a schedule, but our kids are not, and they don't get it. They don't care. So like, sometimes you just have to be like, all right, well, I'm going to be late to the family restaurant dinner. I'm going to be a little bit late because it's more important that we deal with this. Because if I try to shove my kid in the car when they're in this state, it's just going to keep going.
Mhm.
There's not going to be a good resolution for it. If you can address it in the moment, let them work through it on their time, everything will work out better in the end.
Yeah, and also like release the guilt that kind of comes along with that, right? Like, oh my gosh, we're going to be late, or oh my gosh, we're going to miss out on this, right? Because it's like we're in it kind of for the long game. And a lot of times, yeah, we feel the pressure
Mm-hmm.
to, because we're a good mom if we got to the grocery store today, like we said, and we got to the appointment on time and we did all the things. So, yeah, like releasing that pressure also probably helps you.
That's a really good point. Yeah, for sure. And it's hard to remember it in the moment because once your kids' emotions are elevated, then your emotions tend to follow suit and you get kind of like, "Ugh," that's why it's good to calm yourself down. But like anybody that you're going to meet, if they are like upset about you being late, what kind of relationship do you guys have? And maybe that's a conversation you need to have with that person, because if you're in a family or friendship with somebody who doesn't understand, hey, I have a kid, and sometimes that comes first, then maybe you don't need to go meet
And
up with.
even appointments, like I think about too, because I am one, like I like to be 15 minutes early to my appointments, and even with that, is if you're not late every single time, if you have to be late to a doctor's appointment or you have to be late for something else, 9 times out of 10, it's not as big of a deal, and the person that you're going to see would probably rather you get a handle on what's happening with your kid first than bring them in the middle of a meltdown, because they're still going to be having the meltdown. If they are at that meltdown stage, they're still going to be having the meltdown in the doctor's office or at the hair salon or at wherever you were going to go.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, so there's just no point in just trying to pretend it's not happening. And you can text them, be like, hey, we're in the middle of something, I'll be late, and they'll be fine. Everyone's gonna be fine, guys.
So we're talking about like one kid having a meltdown, but you used to be a teacher. So what happens when you have multiple kids, whether it's your own multiple kids or you're in a setting that you have multiple kids, and all of those kids have kind of like different needs at the same time? How do you work through that?
Okay, so I always, whenever someone asks me a question like this, I think about one particular class that I had. I had one group of kids, and it was um, like I said, I was stuck with kids that had been labeled as behavioral problems. I wouldn't call them that, but that was kind of what would be in their folder. Teachers get the folders. And so it was my year. I called it my volcano classroom because all I did all year was just like go around and like put out little volcanoes all day long. They were all just like simmering and ready to explode at some point. And so what happened for me in that situation was like really, okay, first of all, what didn't help was like screaming. Like we said, I want to say that first, like screaming, expecting them to just do what I said with no
Mhm.
questions asked. Like that's not helpful. But really recognizing that they all have needs, they all have plans, they all have things going on in their lives, and really focusing on the emotional relationship that I have with all those kids and making our classroom like a family. So it's not really the same with an actual family, but you could do something similar to this at maybe breakfast. But we would have, I know a lot of teachers do a morning meeting, but we would have like an extended morning meeting. Like we would just sit down and really talk about like, hey guys, how's everyone doing? Let's do a really good check-in and let's send each other well wishes. If you're having a rough morning, I want to know about it. You don't have to tell us what's going on, but it's helpful to know where everyone stands because then moving through the day, you can kind of address them appropriately. And then also, we spent a lot of time learning about what different facial expressions mean. So my kids could recognize, oh, hey, Johnny's hiding in his hoodie, or his eyebrows are like this, or he's stomping, or whatever he's doing with his body is a clue. Like it's just like when you teach a kid not to go up to a dog who has its ears back and its teeth showing. You have to you have to like give them those clues. Sorry, I'm rambling. Do you want to say something?
No, I'm loving it.
Okay. And so just having them recognize it, and then we made it kind of like a safe space to talk about it. So at the beginning of the year, I asked my kids, I said, "Hey, is it okay if we notice that you're having a bad day? Can we point it out to each other? Like, hey, do you notice that this is going on?" And they all said it was okay, but then they were allowed to change their mind. Like they could tell me,
Mhm.
Please don't talk about me. I don't want you to talk about me." Obviously, that would be horrible if you're in a bad mood and someone's talking about you. But by the end of the year, we got so close that we were able to know, when everyone's having a bad day, and just recognize it and really try to support each other. Uh, and I'll tell you, I thought at the beginning of the year I was going to get no teaching done. Like I thought we were just going to spend the entire year on emotions and behaviors, and I was fine with that because that group needed it. Um, but I taught more than any other year probably because we spent so much time addressing it that they were like, "Okay, well, ready for the day to start. We've talked about all these things that were bugging me. I don't need to like think about them and marinate all day long. We've got it out. Now I can learn, you
Yeah,
know?"
I feel like I used to teach preschool, and then
Mhm.
now I have two little ones of my own. And I feel like in instances where kids get to sort of meltdown, it's often because they start at tantrum and
Mhm.
then they are not feeling heard, they're not feeling validated, right? And so they kind of like transition into meltdown because they don't know what to do, you know?
Right.
So I think like I love that you're talking about and calling out and validating like so and so is having a bad day because this happened. You're validating them. We're thinking about what could we do to solve their problems all together as a group, right? We're giving
Mhm.
them that sense of support and community, and so it's like they don't need to get to meltdown because they're already being heard.
Right. Yeah. And if you just take care of it in the and of course things can happen throughout the day. So not everything can be addressed in the morning. But then and I'll just say some of the programs that I was trained in that I loved are like conscious discipline is my one of my favorites because I always talk about a calm down corner, but in that program they call it a safe place. And that's what I used in my classroom. And it was just like a place they could go. If something happened during the day, they didn't have to ask me. They just got up and went. And other teachers, would come in my classroom and be like, "Aren't they going in there and just playing for 20 minutes?" And I'm like, "Actually, no. Like I've taught them how to use it. They go in there, they get at least to a point like they're not melting down, they calm down enough, and then they can come back, and whether they learn anything else for the rest of the day or not is fine. But they won't be disruptive, at least, which is fine. Or maybe they go in there and they take a nap, but maybe that's what they need because they're not getting that at home. So giving your kids at home a place to go and do their calm down time is helpful, and in the classroom as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I do think like the more emotionally regulated the kids feel, the more they are receptive to learning new
Mm.
things, whether that's learning new boundaries at home, learning their ABCs and how to read at school. Like once they, because that emotional regulation, I feel like you just did some kind of a fundraiser. I don't want to dive into it, but I feel like you just talked about like the basic needs being met,
Mhm. Yep.
needing to be met. And I feel like that definitely translates into kind of school. And we do have a lot of homeschool families on here too. So meet your children's, emotional regulation. Don't worry if you didn't get math or reading done that day, because tomorrow you're going to be able to go back and do it with an even better mind to focus on it.
For sure. And I was actually doing a live last night with Ashley Square, who was here on my TikTok live, and she um, had a really good point, which was we've been in this state of upheaval for a year and a half, and pretty much all kids are, in the same boat of like, we just need to get through the day. You know what I mean? So many things are changing. If you're not meeting that milestone, if you're not on the right reading level, if you didn't get that homework done, it's going to be all right. Like we're all kind of in the same boat, and we'll get there. We'll get there. It's not like, is there like some big test at the end of life? No, there's not. Who cares? Honestly, like,
Yeah. So kind of just even to transition into the next topic, right? So we talk about how life sort of changed over the last year and a half or coming on 2 years, right? And a lot of kids might have even been like born at a time of quarantine and then having to go out in public. I know my younger one is definitely a lot tougher in public than my older one was, because the first year of her life, like nothing was open, you know? So
Yeah.
I've seen your reenactments or your skits on TikTok where you're kind of like um, teaching your child, like, okay, we're going into a new place and this is what we're going to do. And here's kind of like setting the clear boundaries. Can you kind of like take us from the beginning of that? Like, why are you doing that? What, you know, what are you doing? Why is it so important? All that.
Absolutely. And I'll start by just telling your audience here that you sent me a list of the questions before we did this, and that was so helpful for me to ease my anxiety to know what we were going to talk about. And it just helped me to be prepared. Same thing for our kids. If you're going somewhere new, like this was a new experience. I don't know you other than TikTok, you know. So if we're taking our kids somewhere new, they don't know it, you know, they don't know what to expect. They don't know what it's going to look like. They don't know how they're supposed to act. So you can't hold them accountable for a set of expectations that they don't know. It's just like going to work and your boss doesn't tell you like you have to be here at 7:30 and you just assume you have to be there at 8. Like how would you know? Anyway, so similar to my classroom situation, I would, before every activity, go through the expectations, like, and I mean every activity, like, and at least at the beginning of the year, but it would change throughout the year. They would understand it better. But I'd be like, okay, we're going to sit at our desks now. This is how you talk about it. This is how you move through the classroom. This is, you know, keep your hands to yourself and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, okay, now we're going to the cafeteria. Now we're going to the bathroom. Now we're going to recess. And every little one, you have to talk about what it needs to look like because everything is different. And each teacher has different expectations. So even if they've been in school before, it might be different. Sorry, I'm talking so fast. I'm having an afternoon coffee, and that's the problem.
You're fine. You're fine. But while you take a sip of water quick, I do want to say
Mhm.
that's a great point. Like, if in a school setting, each teacher can have different expectations. But for a lot of kids, maybe the before school caregiver has different expectations than the school teachers throughout the day might have 3 or 4 different expectations. Then the kids come home and their parents are having different expectations. And so for the child, it's like, okay, well, what the heck do you want from me?
Right.
If I do this with this person, I'm the best. And if I do this with you, the same thing, I'm doing something wrong. So I love that you brought that up.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're totally right. It's for every situation. So yeah. So yeah, the program that I did in school was called Champs. And I think it's a little, you can buy the book and use it at home if you're doing homeschooling. I think it would be really helpful actually for a lot of parents, but I wanted to make something a little bit more simple. So the one that I came up with was it's how to behave while you're out at a new place. So the H stands for help. It's how do you get help if you need it when we're in this place? So do you tug on your mom's shirt? Is that what she wants? Or do you say, hey mommy? Or do you touch her leg with your hand and wait for her to touch the hand back? Or what's the way your mom or dad or whoever you're with expects you to get their attention? The O is really a circle and it stands for the volume knob. So how loud are you allowed to be in that place? And you can kind of set up your own system for that. My son likes quiet, whisper, and medium and loud. Those are the sounds that he likes. It's fine. Whatever you want to do is fine. A lot of people like inside, outside voice, whatever works for you. And then the W is what to do with your body. So are you supposed to be walking? Are you supposed to stay in the cart? Are you allowed to get up from the table? Do you need to be like, I don't know, if you're in the car seat, are you allowed to get things out of the seat? Are you allowed to kick my seat? Whatever your expectation
Mhm.
is. So I just think it makes it easier. It lessens the anxiety and also then they know how to behave and there's a lot fewer chances for them to misbehave. I don't like the word misbehave, but it's the one that makes the most sense really. Um, there's a lot less yelling that will have to happen because they will already know.
And I know this with my kids too, because I do that as well. I don't have an acronym for it,
I do love
but
a mnemonic. I
you know,
can't stop
you
myself.
know, and it's funny too because like my 5-year-old, every time that we're pulling into my neighborhood to go home, I will tell her like what the plan is when we get in the house. Like, so that's probably when I see it the most in my day, was when I'll be like, okay, here's the plan when we get in, shoes
Mhm.
off, wash hands, whatever. I've been given almost the same plan for the last 2.5 years, but I still, every time when we pull in, and it kind of like makes her feel confident. And I also think it's almost like a challenge for her then, because it's
Mhm.
like, okay, well, if we're going, we had to go to the bank, and I'm like, okay, you can sit and write on this pad, you can, talk quietly to your toy, whatever you can do. And she's like on this mission. And when we're done, she's like, Mom, did you see how I drew on my pad while you were talking to the man? And I think it like really helps their confidence.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Like if I would have, I mean, all the questions that you asked me, I know the answers to, but being able to think about them ahead of time and like prepare was super helpful for me. I feel a lot more confident doing this with you just because I knew what to expect. So
Awesome.
it works for grownups too. Like tell your, tell your spouses what you expect out of for real though. Tell your like, hey, you're gonna watch the kids tonight, honey. Can that be that you don't let them come in the room where I am? Can you make sure to keep them? Like if you tell them, then they know what you expect. If you don't tell them, you can't really be mad if they don't.
Right. That's so true. Yes. Jackie, this was awesome. Tell me how to say your last name.
Oh, I should have said it at the beginning. It's Santillan. It's not intuitive at all.
Okay. I'm not going to attempt.
Okay.
It is
It's my
Jackie.
husband's from Argentina, and it's like so it's a Spanish pronunciation, but they say their L's like a sh. So Santillan. It's very fun.
Ah,
Yeah.
beautiful. It's beautiful when you say it. I'm not going to try. Half my family is off the boat Italian, and like when we go to Italian restaurants, I just point. I'm like, I'm not even going to try. Um, okay, well, this was awesome. So if anybody is listening or watching and resonating with like your experiences and what you're saying today, how could they get in touch with you?
You can always DM me on Instagram. It's kindminds_smarthearts or on TikTok, but I think they've taken away the messaging ability on TikTok now. But you can also send me an email. I have it's kindminds.smarthearts. For some reason, Gmail was not allowing me to use an underscore, but kindminds.smarthearts@gmail. Yeah, and I thought I wrote something. Nope, that's it. That's all.
Okay. And if you're in the community, then wherever you're watching this replay, I will have Jackie's information there too. And then I know that you are working on some books for the coming year, but what kind of services or products do you have available right now if anybody wanted to jump in with you?
Sure. I have a book that's on Amazon. It's called This Big Emotions Planner Belongs to, and it's probably good for like, I would say maybe third graders up to adults, because basically all it is a way for you to start recognizing the signals that your body gives you that you're about to have a big emotion so that you can start to track that and be like, oh, when I get angry, this is what happens to my body. And then it has some suggestions for how to, calm yourself down at the end. So
Yeah.
it's on Amazon. This Big Emotions Planner Belongs to. And then I also have parenting consultations, limited scheduling available on my Linktree. But I actually haven't done any yet. So if you want to be my first one, I would be happy to have any of your listeners on. Um, uh, and I'm happy to answer questions. If you do a Q&A, submit a Q&A on TikTok, I'm happy to answer those as often as I remember to check.
TikTok removed those too.
They did? I didn't
No
even
more,
notice.
no more Q&A.
Wait, I don't understand TikTok anymore.
I know. Well, all right.
Oh,
Jack,
wait, I have one more. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I just
no,
remembered. If you have kids, before I even started doing TikTok, I started making YouTube videos for kids. And the channel is similar. It's Kind Mind Smart Heart, all one word, no plurals and underscores. But there's like 10 videos, I think, of me in that pink wig you saw on the little profile picture. And it just has some videos for kids on like how to identify their feelings and how to teach your parents to be better listeners to you and that kind of thing. So
that's awesome. I'm going to check that out for sure. So before we sign off, I always like to leave with an assignment. So we learned a lot here today, and I want our listeners and our viewers to be able to implement it into our life. So it could be something for us to do or something for us to talk about or think about, but something that we can do today. Do you have any kind of assignment for us?
well, I was a teacher for 11 years. I'd be disappointed in myself if I couldn't come up with an assignment. Yeah, okay. My assignment is to think of 3 different settings that you might go to with your children and try to come up with an HOW for those settings so that you're already prepared. You don't have to think of it on the spot. And when you're ready to go to those places, you can communicate them to your kids. So the H again is for help, the O is the volume knob, and the W is what to do with your body.
I love that. And if you are a member of our community, which I'll talk about in a second, you can put your assignment answer in the community so that we can give you feedback. So Jackie, thank you so much for being here today. This was great.
So fun.
And none of our kids ran into the room. So
wow.
Yeah.
We did it.
So to anybody who is watching or listening, make sure that you head to the official Holistic Home Journey community. If you're watching on social anywhere, it's linked in my bio. But basically, and it's also holistichomejourney.com. So the community will get you access to the replay of this interview as well as the archive of all past interviews. And we also have like assignments in there and contact information for all of our experts. But that is also my main community. So when we say TikTok's taking away private messaging and taking away, Q&A, that's why we did the community off social. So I do weekly live Q&As. We have loads of support. I always try to write you back within a day or two, and lots of exclusive content in there. So make sure you check out the community, and I will catch you next time.